What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to another one of my videos. Let me just say thank you so much for 10,000 subscribers. I know I reached this milestone about a month ago, and well, this Q&A is a little overdue, but whatever, I'm getting around to answering your questions, so let's get right into this video. We have a bunch of questions because I decided to answer every single appropriate question because, well, some questions weren't necessarily the most appropriate. But yeah, we definitely have a bunch of questions to go through, so let's get right into the video. This is Cedar Flags, and this is my 10K Q&A. We're gonna go by the most recent to the first questions. The first one is by John Straka, or John Stralka, I'm not 100% sure, but he asked, should Cedar Point tear down Blue Streak? Yeah, absolutely not. I absolutely love Blue Streak. It is one of my favorites in the park. In fact, it's actually in my top 6 at the park. I have an absolute love for Blue Streak. It runs very well sitting in the front rows, and the airtime is insane, especially for a ride of its time. Zoe Cutton asks, if you could bring back one defunct park, which one would it be and why? I definitely would say I have a big bias for this, but definitely Geauga Lake, Six Flags Worlds of Adventure, however you'd want to call it. I live pretty close to this park, about an hour away, and it was growing at a rapid rate, plus it had a bunch of land, and I would love to see where the Six Flags Cedar Fair Cleveland rivalry would be today. Charged on PC says, if you could pick any coaster to be able to ride whenever you want, which one would it be? I would have to say either Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom or Diamondback at Kings Island. These two coasters are extremely fun, especially Storm Chaser. I could marathon this thing all day and not get bored of it. Alex Hoffman asks, what coaster do you think Cedar Point will get next? I would have to say a Mog Extreme Spinner. I think this would be one of the best fits for the park and would definitely be a great attraction. But when it comes to family rides, I could see something like a Vekoma Invert, one of the ones like Freedom Flyer or Dragon Flyer, because it would be a good kiddie family ride, and it definitely has great forces for thrill seekers. Coastal Coasters asks, if you could meet Coaster Studios and be in a vlog, or be in a Coaster Idiots blog by Toro Orion. Well, technically I have been in a Coaster Studios video, just my voice. I got to meet Taylor back in 2017 at Carowinds, and if you listen closely, you could hear a young prepubescent Cedar Flags.
Oh yeah.
Though, if I had the choice today, I would probably much rather meet Toro Orion because I think his content is definitely more appealing to people like me. Valley Thrills asks, what are your top 5 bucket list credits in the US and the world? Well, this one was pretty interesting to answer, so I came up with a top 5 list. Number 5, Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure. Number 4, Zadra at Energylandia. Number 3, any modern thrilling Vekoma. Number 2, any 4D with a controlled spin, Ejanica Dinoconda X2. Number 1 is Plopsaland's one and only Ride to Happiness. This ride has very much intrigued me, and I really want to get on it someday. Finally, a question with some structure. Chris Bailey asks, how do you like your toast? I don't know. I mean, I like my toast in many different ways. I like my toast plain. I like my toast with butter on it. I like it with jelly on it. I like it with peanut butter on it. All of that is a-okay for me. Marcus Talks asks, is being afraid of wooden roller coasters okay? I'm asking for a friend. Hey Marcus, what's up? We haven't seen each other in a bit. Anyways, I would definitely say for a beginner, it definitely is. Now, it really depends on the reason you're afraid of wooden roller coasters. As long as you understand they're completely safe, but just have the fear of them in general, I think that's a-okay. Because wooden roller coasters, just like steel coasters nowadays with modern safety records, really aren't dangerous whatsoever. Waddles112 asks, do you have a bucket list coaster or park in the Netherlands? 2 words, Walibi, Holland. This park looks like it has one of the best top 2s on the planet, and I definitely want to get here one day before I kick the bucket. Theme Park Avenue asks, what sort of travel are you into besides roller coasters? I am a huge fan of cities. I love going to different cities across the United States. I am a huge fan of skyscrapers and architecture as well. This past November, before Nickelodeon Universe and American Dream, I decided to take a stop in downtown Manhattan for the first time. And let me say, it was awe-inspiring. I cannot wait to go back, and I can't wait to go to my next major city, which is unknown at the moment. Coaster Cinema asks, if a 500-foot coaster were to be built, what do you think it could look like? Example, what manufacturer and what type of elements would we see on it? I would definitely see it be by Intamin. I don't think any other company has the resources to do it. I think B&M's a little too vanilla for it. and I think that RMC isn't really ready to experiment with this much, but Intamin I feel like it's right down its alley. I feel like it would just be a bigger version of something like Hyperion or Superman the Ride, and would probably feature basic elements like camelbacks, low to the ground airtime moments, and maybe even some modern elements like outward bank turns and wave turns. I would love to see this, but who knows. That PA Kid is asking for some tips about going to Cedar Point or Kings Island for the first time. Well, I would say, no matter what fears hold you back, go on, because once you leave, you're gonna regret it if you don't ride what you want to ride. Even rides like Millennium Force, Top Duel Dragster, Orion, Drop Zone, these rides are freaking awesome. And once you get off, you are going to feel so relieved that you did it, and the other rides as well. Andrew Miller asks, most controversial coaster and real life opinion. My most controversial roller coaster opinion might be my opinion on Voyage, but I have a whole series on unpopular opinions. I think one that I've found the least amount of people agreeing with is that Tennessee Tornado isn't really as good as it's supposed to be, and I much prefer rides like Carolina Cyclone and the late Vortex at Kings Island. Real life opinion, I think 432 Park Avenue in New York is stunning. Thomas Galvin asks, Millennium Force or Orion? Millennium Force. Looks like Gata predicted the future and asked, why do you think the Mog Extreme Spinner is coming to Cedar Point? 1, it's a very rare model. 2, the world's tallest and fastest spinner would be easy to break. 3, Cedar Point does not have a spinning coaster. And 4, Cedar Fair and Mach are pretty tight right now. Ethan Lennon asks, are you planning a trip to Magic Mountain? I've been to Magic Mountain, the one in Columbus, Ohio, of course. Here's a little bit of a handful. Sophie Wilbur asks, what is your credit count? My credit count is 158. In your top coasters, my number 1 is Steel Vengeance, number 2 is Storm Chaser, number 3 is Twisted Timbers, number 4 is Millennium Force, and number 5 is Sky Rush. And the final part of this, what parks do you plan on visiting this year? I have a massive road trip planned right now, but outside of that road trip, I plan on going to Six Flags Darien Lake on a day trip. When it comes to the actual trip, I could tell you that I will be going to the New Jersey Boardwalk Parks and Six Flags Great Adventure, but I'm not going to say any more. I'm afraid to pronounce this name, so I'll just leave it be. With Tumbili opening at King's Dominion, what will King's Dominion add next to replace Volcano and later Anaconda? I don't necessarily think that Kings Island has replacing Anaconda on its mind, because they've been on a recent spree of removing rides. We know that they are improving Avalanche, and I really think that there's going to be a great replacement with Volcano. I think the best possible fit there would be a B&M wing, specifically a launched B&M wing. Maybe the new tallest and fastest B&M wing. You could fit something pretty big in that plot of land, and King's Dominion is definitely needed of an elite launch coaster like they used to have. Jesse Gagnon asks, if you could have one coaster in your backyard that you could ride whenever you want, what would it be? Well, like I said, either Storm Chaser or Diamondback. Minnesota Thrills asks, what would you call a person that goes on major coasters but doesn't know a lot about coasters? Personally, I would call them a thrill seeker, the stage in between a GP and enthusiast. Jay Natty Boy and the Royal Genealogist basically asked the same question, what music do you listen to and what artists have you been listening to this year? I like to listen a lot to 2000s and 2010s alternative rock. Currently, my 2 favorite bands are My Chemical Romance and 21 Pilots. CoasterFan09 asks, what is the most bizarre coaster that you have ridden that is still operating? Either the Chance Swiss Toboggans or Lost Coaster at Superstition Mountain. Mr. Man 12W asks, what is your favorite thing on a roller coaster? Personally, I would say ejector airtime. More specifically, sustained ejector airtime. Moments you find on rides like Lightning Rod, Steel Vengeance, Goliath, Diamondback. These are some insane moments, and I gotta say, they're my favorites. Sector Reptile asks, if you could only pick one, which wooden coaster would you pick to get the RMC treatment? Personally, Predator at Darien Lake. It isn't too historic of a ride, and most people really do not show their taste for this ride. I say instead of Titan tracking it, RMC the freaking thing and make it a much, much better ride. Han Ban An, that's a fun one to say, asks, what motivated you to start making coaster YouTube videos? I saw other people do it and I wanted to do it myself. I've been wanting to do it for years up until I started, and I've improved over the years. I would say the answer would be that I wanted to share my own opinion and be in charge of my own channel. Pretty simple. I had a big love for roller coasters even back then, and I wanted to share it with the world, or at least 10,000 people. Bricker Coasters asks, what are your thoughts on Rockin roller coaster at Disney World? I have not ridden it, but I have to say it definitely looks like a really fun ride and is pretty good on my bucket list. Hedgehog Coasters asks, is it better to go to an amusement park with a group or by yourself? I say it definitely depends on the group. Going by yourself, you're definitely a lot more independent, and going with a group of enthusiasts, well, you all have the same opinion in mind. But when you go with GP and they just want to ride the bumper cars all day, yeah, I'd rather go alone. Basty asks, where do you see yourself in 50 years? Hopefully with a coaster count over 500 and hopefully retired. I'll be 69 at that point in time. I can't think of a name, well then think of a name. Asks, what got you interested in roller coasters? In the mid 2000s, I got Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I'd say that's what really got me into rides. I rode rides like Barnstormer and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad for the first time in 2007, and with the advent of YouTube getting popular, I looked up more roller coaster videos on there. A documentary in 2008 called Extreme Terror Rides by the Travel Channel really inspired me, and now I'm a full-blown enthusiast. It just kinda grew over the years. William asks, what's one credit that you wish you could have gotten? I would personally say either Legend at Holiday World because it looks really good, which was closed the day I went, or Viper at Great America because it's a very polarizing ride, and it was really busy that day, and we didn't want to ride that, as opposed to the major hypercoaster Raging Bull. There were priorities, and we were on a tight schedule. Julie Mitchell asks, what is the most interesting defunct coaster I've ridden? I really haven't ridden that many defunct coasters. I got to ride Mantis before its conversion, but I wouldn't consider that defunct. And I've ridden some others like Mean Streak and Vortex, but at the same time, I would say none of those are as interesting as the defunct flats. Closing in 2011, Pitfall at Kennywood was a very unique drop tower on the side of a ravine. I absolutely adored this thing. It was pretty sad when it came down. Another unique flat ride I got to ride was a Fun Time Rocket in Myrtle Beach. There are only a handful of these on the planet. They are all traveling, and basically take a Fun Time Starflyer and flip it upside down. Literally. As you're going up, they flip you upside down, 200 feet in the air. It's pretty insane. Purple Click 1721, hey 21 Pilots, what would you have already done by now if it wasn't for the pandemic? Not only about coasters, but mainly about them. I'm not 100% sure. I was planning my 2021 road trip to take place in 2020, but of course that did not happen. I would have gotten my license earlier, I would have gotten more coasters by now, but unfortunately the pandemic set me a year back. Also, something interesting is I credit the quarantine on my success, because my most popular video, and the video that got me to where I am today, was posted in the quarantine of 2020 when everyone was at home watching YouTube videos, so probably wouldn't be focusing as much on YouTube as I am now. G Feats asks, what was the best and worst coaster days of 2021? For me personally, the best day was going to Six Flags Great America or Dollywood. Both of these, going to new parks and getting new credits is such a magical feeling, and it was a great time. But the worst, I would have to say, is going to Beach Bend. Even though it was a new park, it was a pretty trash park, not gonna lie, and I would not be surprised if I never saw that park again. Coaster Nerd Weekly asks, what my favorite moment of 2021 was when it came to coasters. I would have to say my whole scooter road trip as a whole, the 2-week coaster expedition I took last summer, it was insane. I really don't know if I have a favorite part. Maybe riding Storm Chaser for the first time because it was on my bucket list, and I have to say, that's one kick butt ride. ST Rockgirl asks, is there a coaster that I wouldn't go on again, and why? I'm not 100% sure about this, but possibly some of the smaller coasters I've ridden. Maybe, well, Little Phantom at Kennywood because it was pretty embarrassing getting on that once, and well, I got on it, I got the credit, never again. Too Scared to Ride Hypers asks, if you could ride any coaster with any person, what ride would it be, with who, and why? Personally, I would say Alan Schilke. I couldn't imagine riding an Alan Schilke creation next to Alan Schilke. Same thing goes with Joe Draves and Werner Stengel. Anything with any of those manufacturers would be absolutely mesmerizing. Harry Porpoise asks, what would your dream coaster be? Favorite elements, manufacturers, etc. I would say a massive RMC or Intamin Giga that just lasts forever. Think of a Giga version of Steel Vengeance, or maybe even something taller. But within the realms of realism, definitely that. Thank you all so much to everyone that participated, and even more so, thank you so much for all of the amazing support that I've gotten throughout the years. This is my 10,000 subscriber Q&A, and it just blows my mind that I'm even here. I remember getting 1,000 and thinking, I'm not going to get any more. But then it kept growing and growing, and after even some people doubting, I'm all the way here. It just blows my mind that I have a fan base like this, and I truly love you all. So, keep enjoying my content, hopefully. This is Cedar Flags, and I'll see you all later.